What's up, my little pretties? It's your mistress, the Shoutliness here, and today I'm bringing you all another discussion video. Now, last time I did say, about how to, I made a discussion video explain how to become a narrator for creepypastas and all that. Well, today I'm gonna do another one, and this is basically regarding creepypastas. Now, first of all, I'm gonna say if you're gonna make a lost episode, pasta, lost movie, video game, or a general creepypasta or whatever you guys prefer to call it, or whatever you guys want to write a creepypasta about, then I am going to explain and give you guys helpful tips on what you should and shouldn't do when it comes to narrating creepypastas. Now, there are some things that you should do when it comes to making your own pastas and what you shouldn't do. First of all, I'm going to say before you get started, brainstorm some ideas. Brainstorm on what you want. This can go into funny pastas too. Now, if you want to write a funny pasta, that's fine. If you want to write a curry pasta, a gaming pasta, or whatever kind of curry pasta you want to write about, brainstorm some ideas. It's the best thing you can get started with is brainstorm ideas what you've came up with. First of all, think about it and then brainstorm some ideas, what you want to use for your pasta. Now, the thing about it is you need to find out what type of curry pasta category is it going to be in. Lost movie, lost episode, regular curry pasta, funny pasta, or troll pasta, or whatever. Once you think that you're going to write a story for any of those, here are some helpful tips. First of all, we're going to go to the general curry pastas. Now, there are a lot of them out there that are actually really good. If you're going to write a good one, take some inspiration from the other curry pastas from the regular curry pasta wiki. But here's something you should never do. Don't plagiarize another story. Because if you do that, like if you copy the whole story and then replace it with your own version, chances are nobody's going to like your story because that's kind of plagiarism. Now, this is actually one of the reasons why Shadow Reader says you should never plagiarize a story because it's the lazy man's way out. I agree with what he says, and I've never done that. I might have maybe done that maybe once, but I can't remember if I done that once. I think I did that when I was younger, like maybe 13, and I was just starting to write stories. But then I learned that, you shouldn't do that because that does not make your story scary. Or make any story good. If you plagiarize a story, your story immediately goes down to the F zone. And nobody's going to be like, oh, this is familiar. This person just, that's the lazy man's way out. People that copies other stories, they're basically lazy. And that's the thing I could definitely say. They're lazy in their own way. When it comes to writing your own pasta, like I said, brainstorm an idea. Like, for example, you want to make a curry pasta out of a Scooby-Doo episode. Brainstorm some ideas of what your lost episode should be about. And here's things that you should do. Try to avoid as many cliches as you can. Cliches are something that can be avoided when it comes to writing, your curry pasta, whatever it be a regular one, lost episode, troll pasta, or whatever. You need to make sure about what cliches that are considered cliches and which ones are not. Sometimes gaming pastas do use a lot of cliches, but as long as they're done right, then it should be pretty good. However, that kind of depends on, what it is and stuff like that. If you're going to sit there and make a curry pasta that is pretty good, come up with something that is a little more unique in their own sense. When it comes to writing your own curry pasta, take an inspiration from any curry pastas you've seen. Now, however, though, what you should not do is never rip stories off, because if you do that, like I'm going to say before, it's a lazy man's way out and it does not make your story scary. You can make it scary by using stuff that has never been done before. However, here's the things with cliches. If you're writing a lost episode one, avoid using DVD and, and VHS cliches. You know, those ones that have been very much used so many times. Found them on the garage sale, buying them from the store, found it on the ground, find it in the mailbox, or getting it on Amazon or eBay, those are cliches. Like, those are just very, very cliche shade intro to a story. You do not want to do that. I think Shadow Reader has done a video basically about this, but I don't remember if he's done that on his old channel, but I'm pretty sure he has. Now, when you're writing your own creepypasta, try to avoid using as much cliches. If you're going to use a VHS or DVD cliche, here is something you have to do. If it's unavoidable, use it to make it something completely original, is one, and use it in a way that it will work. Because if you just slap it on there, it's not going to work. And that's not going to make your story scary. Because those kind of cliches can kill the story. However, there are some exceptions depending on what it is. Like, let's take an example, the Amazing World of Gumball episode, The Grieving. Even though they had a couple cliches, it's still a pretty good story. Now, take that into consideration. Sometimes creepypastas can have cliches. Depending on how you look at it, it could be good. But you want to try to avoid more cliches as you can. And I'm being honest, you want to try to avoid using as much cliches as you possibly can. Because if you just sit there and, just do what you did, it's not going to work out. When it comes to writing your own creepypasta, you have to make sure that the creepypasta will work. If you just sit there and, slap something, write a creepypasta just because you thought of it, that's not going to work. And, what you should do is, avoid the hyperrealistic gore or anything cliche. Hyperrealistic eyes, hyperrealistic crying, hyperrealistic gore. Don't use any of that cliches because that has been used so many times in creepypastas. And this is kind of the reason why Shadow Reader says that creepypastas are dying. Is because, people keep using the same cliches. Now, what you should do as well is if your story has a cliche or more than one, make something that is completely original and make it work somehow. That, I could definitely say, would be another thing. Now, what else is there that you need to say? Now, you don't want to repeat using the same thing when it comes to writing a creepypasta, with a plot of it. You don't want to use the same thing that's been used so many times because that's just repetitive. I know my stories are repetitive at times, but what I'm going to say right now is try to avoid doing that. You got to expand your mind when it comes to writing your own creepypastas. Even though I do it, and I encourage you guys to do it as well. If you could narrate stories like me, Skyrunner, and Shadow Reader, and you could write it just as good as Skyrunner does. Take a look at Skyrunner's stories. Take a look at my stories, and even take a look at Shadow Reader's stories. Our stories, we put time and effort. What you should do when it comes to, if you want to write your own creepypasta, you gotta do something that everyone should do. Put time and effort into a story. You don't want to sit there and rush it, even though I have rushed a couple of stories, just thinking I want to get it done in one day, Some people who can get it done in one day are probably those that know what they're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, take it slow and take it at least a couple of days, maybe a little bit. Sometimes when it comes to me writing stories, it sometimes takes about a month or so to write them. Mainly because busy with, real life stuff. But not just that, I have to, take in consideration on what ideas I want to throw in there before I start writing up more. When it comes to doing that, write your own ideas when you're writing your own pasta. I highly recommend you use something that can help with grammatical errors and even spelling errors. Use something like, for example, Google Docs. I use Google Docs a lot for my stories, so I highly recommend you guys do the same. That way they will be able to, be a lot more better, make it more easy to read. But, Goshia Wiki has used a lot of cliches, although I did take a look at them look at Goshio Wiki the other day, and there's still some news stories up there, but there's even some that, the grammar is more readable, but there's still cliches. Another cliche that you should try to avoid using is I took the DVD or VHS and threw it in the trash can or something like that. That is cliche because they have done that. You shouldn't use something like saying, I will never watch this movie again, or don't pick up this movie, or don't see this movie or episode, or this will happen. Don't use any of that cliches because that just kills the story, but the entire ending. That kills the entire ending of the story. You do not want to do that. That is something you do not want to do. If you're going to write your own creepypasta, try to avoid doing that. Because if you don't do that and you just sit there, slap it on like you don't care, that just ruins the story. And, that's going to make people not want to read your story. Now, what you should also do is take your time to write your story. If you can't get it done in one day, which that's fine. You could work on it the next day and etc. I take my time when it comes to reading stories. Sometimes I can add, stuff that I want, take away stuff that I don't want to use in that. Here's something you should always do is make sure you don't have any run-on sentences. If you put run-on sentences in a creepypasta, it's going to be hard for people to read. Like myself, I have read a couple of stories that, the grammar is absolutely, off, or even the sentence structuring is not great. I have read a couple of those. And, I'm shaking my head basically saying, what the hell am I sitting there and, doing? That's exactly what I'm trying to say. If you're going to write your own pasta, please take your time. Do not rush, because if you rush, your story's not going to look good. Now, this is going to go for troll pastas too, and even curry pastas and never gaming pastas. Now, when it comes to writing them, you need to put some time and effort, especially in gaming pastas. Even though gaming pastas might not be the greatest, at least you tried. That's the thing I could definitely say. However, there are some other good curry pastas out there that are pretty good. Now, let's say right now that if you're going to write another curry pasta, while you're writing a creepypasta, be sure you check your spelling errors in that as you go along. Read the certain part of the story of the paragraph and change it up if you have to. Only change it up if you don't like it, or if you think that, it's not looking great, change it up a bit. Now, make sure you know where your punctuation should go to when it writes your story. Don't sit there and, put a full run on sentences, because it's going to be difficult for most people to read. You need to put where your punctuation needs to go to. Now, the best thing you could do that is go on Google Docs, and they can help you fix that. Ask for help if need to, etc. But here's something you should never do when it comes to being a creepypasta narrator and writing your own stories. Do not ask somebody else to edit your work. That is just lazy. If you do that, people are going to know that you're a lazy person that don't want to do your work, that doesn't want to do your own work. That is something you got to say, is do not sit there and ask people to do your work for you. That's just very lazy. Now, I'm going to say right now that Skyrunner SG1 has narrated some of my stories. Well, most of them, actually. He did have to edit a couple of my stories, which one of them being Pepito's Diarrhea and, what was it? Oh, yeah, and Shadow Reader's Diarrhea. He did have to edit, some of the stuff, add some stuff to make it funny in that. And, I don't have a problem with that. Because, he says that, he's had problems with, he's kind of has trouble reading certain parts with errors and that. I'm not saying that he has to edit it. I said if he wants to, he can, because, he's a cool guy and he likes to add certain things to make it funny. But, however, here's something you should not do is don't sit there and make somebody do it for them. Because, it's just going to make people know that you're lazy. And you do not want to do that. You do not want to sit there and, do that. Because, that's not actually good. Now, another thing you should do, and this is actually to be completely and utterly honest, is this. If you're going to write a creepypasta, if you're going to post a creepypasta on a wiki, like Oshia, for example, but I highly recommend not to, or Spinpasta, or any other site, before you do it, you gotta make sure you check your work. Check your creepypasta. Make sure it's neatly done. You need to make sure you've done neat sentence structuring and neat paragraph structuring. Because if it's messy, nobody's gonna want to narrate it because it's hard for the person to read. Now, here's something we need to do. For paragraph structuring, have at least a few sentences in a paragraph. Maybe 2 or 3 sentences in a paragraph. Because if you sit there and, put so many, and make it a large paragraph of your story, it's going to be too hard for people to read. And, I have read a couple pastas that have, were so hard to read. But I've narrated worse. That is going to be something I can definitely say. Now, I'm going to be honest. When it comes to writing your own pastas, now check your work before you send it to anyone to narrate it. Check your work, make sure everything is neat and nice. If you need to change anything, you better do so. Because if you don't sit there and do that, your story's not going to be good. However, this is when it comes to when you finish writing your story. You got to make sure it follows the guidelines of certain wikis like Oshia and all that. Because if it doesn't follow any of the guidelines, your story will not be posted if it doesn't follow it. So that is just something I just thought I would be honest to put out there. However, this is something it goes for all of us. We take our time and effort to put these stories together. And we have done these for a long time. And of course, we have done a couple of things. But there are some things that you guys really need to know. If you're going to put anything on your story, you need to make sure it works somehow. Because if you sit there and do that, it's not. And just slap it on there. For the sake of it, it's not going to work. Now, I have done a couple mistakes. If you made a mistake in your story and people don't like it, learn from that mistake when it comes to writing another one. Because you want to sit there and, remember the mistakes you did and to avoid doing it again. That is the honest thing I could definitely say what you should do when it comes to narrating your story. Or anyone's story, for that matter. Now, anyways, this video is long enough as it is. I already gave you guys some helpful tips on what to do and what not to do when writing creepypasta, lost episode, or anything like that. This also goes for fanfictions too. With that said, what did you all think about this discussion video? Do you agree with me? Do you not? Also, what we have done personally to think that if I missed... Oh, wait a second. If you think I missed any information, leave me now your thoughts down in the comment section down below. I'm the Sean Linus. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure you like, comment, subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring notification bell so you will get notified to when I upload. And with that said, I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.